with attorney Lance Drury of the Drury Law.
The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from experts on such topics as legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to our experts in community association law, estate planning law, tax relief, Medicare, public insurance adjusters, neuropathy treatment, business brokers, and personal injury law, along with many other topics. Now here's your host for the last 17 years, Steve O.
And welcome to another Ask the Expert Show, where, like the man said, for the last 17 years, we have brought you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. In fact, many of our experts have been with us for at least 5 years, which is amazing. But this morning's show, I have to brag on it. We're on TikTok now. I got to tell you that I have never seen a show take off the way this show has taken off. Their YouTube numbers have surpassed almost everybody. And then we went on TikTok for the first time, and I could not believe how many people were watching our show on TikTok. It just blew me away. And this attorney, Lance Drury, he talks about he was a small town lawyer. This man is amazing. Let me introduce you to him. Attorney Lance Drury. Good morning, Lance.
Good morning, Steve. It's always great to be here. I'm glad you reached out to me over a year ago and found me, because I love doing your show. I love helping people out. I love answering people's questions, because I'm on the side of the little guy. I've never forgotten the little guy. I was born and raised poor. I want to help people out. And, I've always been on the side of the little guy against the big bad wolf, the federal government, and the IRS.
Lance, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you. God is the most important thing in my life. And I know that the Lord brought you to us because I got to tell you, Lance, you have, and I want people to think about this, when they're sitting down with somebody, especially when it comes to the IRS, you really want to have someone that you can really trust, that you understand what he's talking about. He's not talking over your head. And that for now, the playing level is going to be so much easier, because before the IRS owned all the cards. But with attorney Lance Drury and his staff, Lance, we've got so many new people. Please tell everybody about your firm.
Well, Steve, we represent people that have tax problems with the IRS and various state agencies. That's what we do. We not only help people set up agreements, offers in compromise, and installment agreements are currently not collectible with the IRS, but they're there for audits. We're there if they have innocent spouse relief, identity theft, if they're facing criminal charges. We've helped people that had hundreds of thousands of dollars of liability with the IRS who were being criminally investigated for that and came away without any criminal charges being filed. And I got to tell you, I've got a recent example, Steve, of what you were just talking about. I had a guy that just hired me, and he paid me a lot of money up front, because he owes a lot of money. And this revenue officer was at him. And if he didn't come in Monday of this week, she was just going to levy and take everything that he had.
Wow.
So he hired me. We had time to stop the levy. I had a phone discussion with the revenue officer yesterday. I don't normally do that anymore because, I got 1,000 clients at any one time and a lot of attorneys. So I try to stay out of the cases because I got so much else going on. But I called her yesterday and, she was as nice as she could be to me because she knew and she wanted my client to come in for the trust fund penalty interview. And for people that don't know what that is, if you owe payroll tax liability and you're incorporated or have a multi-member LLC, they can come after you personally for the unpaid portion of the payroll tax that's attributable to the employee. That's generally 50 to 60% of the payroll tax. The significance then is they can come after your personal income. They can come after your personal assets. And so she wanted him to come in. I said, we don't do that. None of my clients are subjected to that interview. And I said, this is why, and I hope everybody's listening so that if they ever face this and they don't hire me, they remember this. Do not go to that interview. The federal statute that finds you a responsible party for purposes of asserting the trust fund against you is identical to the federal statute for tax evasion, which is a felony and punishable in the federal claim. If you think I'm going to let my clients go in and confess to a felony, well, you better have a better thought than that because that's not going to happen. That's why you need an attorney representing you before the IRS because they're going to protect your rights. We're trained in how to zealously represent our clients. So if you don't hire me, I tell everybody there's 3 rules. Hire an attorney that does this every single day. Don't hire an accountant. Don't hire an enrolled agent. Go local. We have people in all these offices, and don't hire one of the big boys. There's a lot of scam artists out there, and they just take your money and they don't do anything for you. The profession gets a bad name because there's bad actors out there, but you can look up our Google reviews, the testimonials, the speeches I've given across the country, Steve. And so, I hope that answers your question.
So, Lance, one of the things I've learned from you, first of all, when you have the IRS after you, it affects your whole life. It affects your marriage. It affects your business. Just having that on your back. And there's a lot of people, Lance, you've taught me this, that originally will try to handle this themselves. And what they do when they talk to the IRS, they actually make it worse for themselves rather than hire a firm like yours where they don't have to talk to the IRS. And can you talk about that? Because there's a lot of people who try to handle this themselves with the IRS.
Well, let me just give you a couple of examples. I could give you a whole bunch, but I'm just going to give you 2 different scenarios here. And one is people do it on their own. They call up the IRS. They think they got it under control. They set up a payment plan, and then they call me. And the first words out of their mouth are, I can't afford the monthly payment. And I go, then why did you agree to do this? And they go, because this is what they told me I had to do. I said, that's not true. They're taking advantage of you because they know that you don't know how the game is played. And so, you've got to do this. You can't do this on your own. You've got to get a professional that does this. The other thing is, I had a guy in Tennessee. He owed $1 million. We wanted to charge him $25,000 for a retainer. He was going to have to pay us $50,000 to $100,000. He had all kinds of assets. He's in his mid-50s. And he didn't hire us. He fought him all this time. 2 weeks later, they took every asset he owned, including more than $300,000 in his retirement account. And so, that's the problem. If he had hired us, I can't guarantee you because we can't give out guarantees. They could take my bar license for that, but the odds are good. We could have stopped the levy and worked something out with the IRS, and he probably would have fallen far short of paying everything back to the IRS. But this is the problem. And Steve, I got to tell you, people think this easy. When I was a small town lawyer, 15 hours of continuing legal education a year. Now, all of my attorneys, I have 7 other attorneys, we spend 50 to 100 hours or more a year just keeping up with this stuff because it's constantly changing. It's the government. They're a bureaucracy. And the other thing is that you need a professional for is the IRS is shorthanded. They're hiring people now that aren't properly trained in the automated collection system. Layperson calls them up. They don't know what they're telling them is not true because they don't know all the rules and regulations and tricks of the trade. But we do. And you know, there's a lot of them because they're so poorly trained, they don't know what they're talking about. So what happens in that situation is we just tell them we got to go, something's come up, and then we call somebody until we find somebody that knows what they're talking about.
So, Lance, we are getting a lot of questions both on TikTok and YouTube who are watching right now. People are wondering, how does the IRS contact you? People are saying they're getting phone calls, they're getting emails. I've learned from you, those are probably scams.
Yeah, normally the first contact you're going to have with the IRS is it's going to be a letter. So, you know, particularly if it's an email or something, we have seen in the past where people would send out emails and it would be a scam. But here's the other thing that you got to watch. There are these companies who are scam artists, and they're sending out a notice to the taxpayers because, you know, if a federal lien's filed against you, it's recorded in a recorder of deeds office in the county in which you live generally. Sometimes they screw up. And, you know, then it's a matter of public record. So there's people that compile a list of this, sell them to practitioners in these companies, and they can find out who the taxpayer is, their address, and they send them a notice. And it looks like it's coming from Uncle Sam from the IRS. It's got an 800 number or an 888 number. There's no physical address. And it says, we can settle for 10 cents on the dollar. And then it gives them a number from what their liability is. Those are scams. They don't know what they can settle for until they do a whole bunch of work because it's all based on the taxpayer's ability to pay the tax liability back. So we have to go through financial statements, bank statements, credit card statements, all of that. And we'll go through that 3, 4, 5 times. And we do it because the taxpayer never fills it out right the first time. It's confusing. It's complicated to 99% of our clients. And so we got to get the numbers right because you're submitting those numbers under penalties of perjury. And secondly, you give us bad numbers, we're going to give you bad advice. So we're going to make sure with documentation to prove up certain expenses that the numbers are right to the IRS.
Here's our next question. And by the way, thank everybody for your questions. We appreciate it. Can you be held personally liable for your business taxes?
You can for the payroll tax. If you're incorporated and you have income tax liability, no, that's one of the reasons why people set up a separate legal entity. It's for protection so that they can't go after your personal assets. But there is an exception. And that's if you owe payroll taxes. And I think I alluded to this earlier, but the trust fund civil penalty can be asserted against somebody that has a corporation, and the significance is they can come after you personally if they find out that you're the responsible party. And that person is always the person who runs the business and knew or should have known. And if you're the owner, you should have known that the taxes weren't being paid. And so it's 50 to 60% of the total payroll tax. It's called the trust fund civil penalty. And for that 50 to 60%, then they can come after you personally. And they do that, particularly if the business has gone belly up. Because if the business has gone belly up and there's no assets left, there's no income left, they can't get the payroll tax out of that, but they can still come after you personally for 50 to 60% of the payroll tax. So I'm telling you, small business owners, 70% or more of my clients are small business owners. Those are the people that get in trouble because the taxes aren't automatically taken out. Everybody thinks owning your own business is the American dream, but it's a lot of work, and a lot of small businesses don't make a lot of money. And what happens, Steve, is, and this happens to me, but now I've changed the way I do business. I got to get paid in full before the case is resolved. And every small business owner has been screwed by their clients, and they don't get paid. And so what happens is somebody doesn't pay the business. They don't have enough money to pay Uncle Sam. They want to keep the business going, so they pay their employees. They pay their suppliers. They think they'll catch up next quarter on their payroll taxes with the IRS. And guess what? It just snowballs. And when you have payroll tax issues, it doesn't take long for you to owe $100,000 in back payroll taxes to the IRS. So if you're going to go in business, remember this. You got to pay your taxes on time. You got to file on time. You got to be compliant.
I want to remind people that you do 3 shows a month with us. The first Monday of the month at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, the last Friday of the month at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, and then we do a show in between. I just want to remind people this is a very important show. So, Lance, we're getting people now, and this is probably a great question. A gentleman just wrote in, I cannot believe I found the show. I am a doubter. Please help me. I hired a company to take care of my tax problems. They were on the phone with me every day, asked me when I was going to send my payment in. Once I made my payment, it was like pulling teeth getting a hold of them. They rarely return phone calls. So I'm a doubter. How is your company different from some of these other companies that advertise on TV? That's a great question.
Because a lot of those big companies have salesmen. Now, I've got to tell you, Steve, I get all kinds of Facebook ads and everything else saying you need to hire salespeople to do your initial consultations. Well, that's all well and good, but we're never going to do that. I want an attorney doing that, because here's the problem. Here's what happens with these big companies. And I know this because I've talked to a woman who did that. And what would happen is, these salespeople, to get these people to come in, would make them promises that they couldn't keep. And just again, then they would hand it to the attorney, and the attorney would say, I can't do that. The IRS is never going to go along with that. So I've been very resistant to have salespeople do the initial consultations. I do them all. If it's more than $50,000, I've cut back, because I was doing 25 to 30 a week. So if it's under 50,000, I don't do them anymore. But I have 5 other attorneys right now, 6 other attorneys who are doing those consults if they're below $50,000. But it's all attorneys who are going to tell the people this is how it is. Because the other thing is, I don't know that there's that many repercussions with a salesperson if they tell you something that's not true. Guess what? If I made a guarantee to a client, not only could the Missouri bar take my license, the IRS could take my license. And that's true of all of my attorneys. And Steve, I'm 72 years old. I don't work because I have to. I didn't make small town lawyers don't make a lot of money, but the last 15 years have been wonderful to me. I could retire, but I don't want to do it. I want to be able to provide jobs to people. I want to help out as many people as possible with their personal problems. So I tell people in the initial consult, I'm very honest, because don't pay me the big money or my firm and then not do what we ask you to do. And guess what? That happens. Because I tell people, you got to do two things or we're not going to be able to help you out. You have to get the last 6 years' tax returns prepared and filed, and we can do that for you. We subcontract with accountants, so they have the same confidentiality as an attorney does. And enrolled agents and accountants don't have that confidentiality, but we do. And so we do that. And so the other thing is we tell them, you know, you got to get us the financial statements. And if you don't get us the financial statements or the last 6 years' tax returns, we're not going anywhere. And guess what, Steve? There's always a certain percentage. We send the financials every month, or we remind them every month to get the tax returns done. 6 months has gone by. They've done nothing. A year's gone by. They've done nothing. 2 years has gone by and they've done nothing. And then they wonder why we can't get them a resolution. Well, there's certain rules of the game, and we got to play by those rules. And the IRS is not going to give anybody an agreement for less than the full amount of the tax liability unless the last 6 years' tax returns have been prepared and filed, and you get them, the client's financial information. So that's where we're different. You just don't hire us and we go away. If you have any doubts, we're a 4.7 out of 5 Google reviews in St. Louis. We're a 4.9 out of 5 in Nashville, Tennessee. Go to my website. I've spoken all over the country about tax resolution. I was at the United Nations, High Point University. I can't even remember. I don't know if I was in Washington, D.C. or not anymore. I think I was scheduled, but then the pandemic came. And you can look at the books I've co-authored with people, and you can look at the testimonials. We're the real deal, Steve. We'll take care of you because we care about clients. And that's another reason why you want to hire an attorney, because attorneys are taught to zealously represent your clients. Accountants and enrolled agents do not have that training.
I want to get this in before we go off the air. Julie in New Orleans, she said, I love your show. When I originally hired a tax relief company, every time I had a question, seems like they would say, I have to get back with you. This is the third show that I've listened to. With all the questions, I've never heard you once say, let me get back with that question. You always know it all. I am so glad. I am going to be moving to Nashville in 2 weeks. I'm going to contact your office then. I want to tell you how much I appreciate your show and your valuable information. That's a great compliment.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's why we're here. I mean, this really invigorates me. This is why I get up at 5 o'clock every morning, because this is my passion. I mean, some people think I should retire, and I said, no, I don't want to do that. No, I'm not going to retire. I hope I'm doing this 10 years from now, Steve. I hope it's me and you still here helping these people.
Every time I talk to you, you're opening up another office in another
Well, I told
city.
you I still want to go into Miami and LA before it's all over and done with.
Okay, for the people who are listening right now on radio and on TikTok, how do they get hold of your office?
Well, go to lancedrurylaw.com and you will not only see a toll-free number, you will see the phone numbers for St. Louis, St. Genevieve, Nashville, San Antonio, and Houston. We're getting people from all over. We've had people from California. We've represented people in California before the Department of Revenue. We do that in various state agencies because I have attorneys that have done that in different places. We don't do it in every state, but we do it in a bunch of states as well as the IRS. Go there, get the numbers. You can schedule an initial consult online, or you can call our office. We'll do an intake sheet with you, and I'll sit down and give you a free half-hour consultation.
Lance, you are the best. Hey, have a wonderful week. We're going to see you the last Friday of this month at 2 o'clock Eastern time. Lance will be back with us. Thanks, Lance.
Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure.
We'll see you soon. Hey, that's attorney Lance Drury. Folks, I'm telling you, if you have a tax problem, you have a family member who has a tax problem, give Lance a call. That's going to do it for us today. We appreciate all your questions. We'll be back again with you tomorrow with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.